Photoshop's workspace is your virtual office, and just like in a real one, you want to set things up just so in order to work productively. Instead of furniture and picture frames, however, we've got panels, keyboard shortcuts, and menu configurations to deal with. Now, everyone works differently, and over the course of a single day, you may even want to have different sets of tools handy depending on the type of work you need to do. Fortunately, Photoshop makes customization easy with an improved workspace switcher. You can find it up here in the Applications bar, and the first thing I'm going to do is click on this divider and drag to pull these out so that you can see all of the workspaces that ship with CS5. Now, workspaces are not new to CS5, but they improve functionality. You'll notice here we've got different templates set up here, and we're going to make our own custom workspace, but I'm going to click on photography to begin with. That gives us a good basis because for the next few lessons we're going to be using a lot of photography based tools. Now what we're going to do here is customize this. There's some things here that we don't really need right now. I'm going to toss mini bridge, get rid of actions. We don't need this one here. Let's see, histogram, we'll get rid of that as well. Info and navigator we'll keep, but I want to have info be first, so I'll click that there. And masks we don't need to use right now. I'm going to click this expand icon here to give the history panel more room. I'm going to take the layers, channels, path grouping out, and I'm going to delete paths for right now. What I want to do though is have layers and channels be right underneath history. So I'm going to click, we got the blue line there, let it go, and we've got layers and paths under there. Click on layers and let's drag this up a bit. History doesn't need to take up that much space. Okay, that looks pretty good. The next thing I'll do is go over here to the tool panel, and I'm going to simply make it a 2-column tool panel. Now you can leave it at 1 column. I'm simply making it 2 because the screen resolution for this training clips off the bottom. So we'll have a 2-column panel there. And now, here's what's different about the workspace switcher in CS5. We selected the photography workspace, and we made changes to it, but we don't have to save it like we did in the past. The workspace switcher now auto-saves your configurations. So watch this. If I click off of photography and go to painting, for example, there's our painting workspace, and when I click on photography, it goes back not to the factory default, but to the custom configuration that we've set up. This is a huge time saver because we won't lose this workspace configuration unless we deliberately change it or reset it. Now we are going to make this custom workspace, and I find it helpful to actually give it its own name. So let's click here and we're going to go and select new workspace. Now what it's going to do is take this configuration that we've just made and allow us to give it its own name. Let's call it TT Demo. Sounds good. Note that we can click here to set keyboard shortcuts and menus that will stay with this workspace, but we haven't configured those yet, so we're going to leave those unchecked. We'll hit save, and now we've got a TT Demo workspace up here. So again, if we move to Essentials or Design, we go back to our custom space here. Now because Workspace Switcher auto-saves, TT Demo and Photography are identical at this point. But here's what we can do. With photography selected, we'll click and say reset photography, and that will take it back to its factory default. So we've saved a new workspace here, TT Demo. I'm going to drag this in and tidy things up just a bit. And now, before we bring in some images in our next lesson, what I want to do is go over a couple of panel options. We'll start with the Info panel, and we'll click on the right flyout menu, select Panel Options. Now we've got document sizes checked, and that's a handy thing to see, but we're also going to check document profile and document dimensions. This is going to allow us to see crucial information about the image at a glance without having to hunt through menus, and that's going to be a big productivity booster. I'm going to turn off Show Tool Hints. Now when I turn it off and hit OK, watch what happens to the length of the Info panel. We've gained back some space here, and the Show Tool Hints simply has text here that describes the function of the tool you have selected, but we don't really need that. Under the Adjustments panel, we're going to make some options changes here. We're going to talk about Auto Select Parameter. So what I'm going to do is turn this on, and so that you can see what it does, let's open up an image. In fact, let's just create a brand new image. We'll press Command N on a Mac, that would be Control N on Windows. And let's just set default Photoshop size. We don't need a big document, we just need something open. Now let's go to our adjustment panel and let's create a hue saturation adjustment, for example. We'll hit OK. Notice that in the text field above the hue slider, the value is already selected. It's highlighted in blue, which means to change it, we can simply press the up and down arrow keys. We can add the shift key to those arrow keys to move in greater increments, but the key is that that value is automatically selected so we can get started with an edit right away. And that's all made possible because we selected Auto Select Parameter in the flyout menu. So if you have that on, let's go back and choose, let's say, Levels Adjustment. Notice that this first field here, the shadow value is automatically selected. And of course, if it's selected, you can cycle through the other text boxes simply by pressing the Tab key. So that Auto Select Parameter option will save you from having to click into a box first to enter text or to change a number. Now this may seem like a minor change, but when you add up all the time over the course of a working day that you would spend clicking to highlight a box simply to change a value, the fact that they're already selected is going to be a big productivity boost and save you a lot of time at the end of the day. The last option that we want to talk about here, we'll go over to the Layers panel and click on Panel Options. Now here, this is new to CS5. We have this Add Copy to Copied Layers and Groups. Now this is the old behavior of Photoshop in that whenever you duplicate a layer, it has the same layer name and just appends copy to it. Now if that really got your goat and really just bothered you to no end, you can turn this off and we'll hit OK. Click on Background and watch what happens if we create a new layer. We just have layer 1. If we do new layer again, we have layer 2. If we copy this layer, we have layer 2 again instead of layer 2 copy. Okay, so we've turned off the preference that automatically appends the word copy to a duplicate layer. If we duplicate layer 1, we don't get layer 1 copy like we normally would in previous versions of Photoshop, we just have layer 1. Now the downside here is that we've got identically named layers, but if you're going to go in and give these custom names anyway, and you're just really tired of seeing that copy, you can set that here in the panel options bar. Okay, so now we've got Photoshop nicely configured and it's time to move on to the next lesson. And